All right, welcome to DDRC, members, staff, and guests. Multiple staff members are present to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and citizens are able to communicate with the commission at the appropriate times. If you are here today and would like to speak about a case, please provide your name clearly into the microphone and please be sure to sign in either at the back of the room or at the podium for documentation purposes. If you are here today to speak about a case, you must speak up when the chairperson calls for public comment. Will staff please call the roll?
Certainly. Mary Beth Sims Branham.
Here.
Ms. Gallo. Mr. Greenberg. Mr. Ledecker.
Here.
Mr. McKenzie. Mr. Salibi.
Here.
Mr. Shelton.
Here.
And Ms. Thomas.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Amy. In order to avoid ex parte communications, DDRC members are under strict instructions not to discuss cases under consideration with the public or with each other outside of the public forum. The meeting typically starts with staff calling the case, giving a summary of the project, and then calling on the applicant to present if they wish. Decisions are typically made in one evening. Decisions may be appealed within 30 days to a court of competent jurisdiction. Oaths will be administered individually as we hear either from the applicants or live speakers. Applicants with requests before the DDRC are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the DDRC or staff regarding requests. Members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. Applicants may have 5 minutes to respond. Staff has a timer and will make presenters aware of when their time has expired. Are there any changes to the agenda?
We do have several changes to the agenda. Item number 2, 631 Laurel Street, a request for design approval for construction of new townhomes in the City Center Design Overlay District has been deferred. Likewise, an appeal to a staff decision regarding driveway changes in Melrose Heights, Oaklawn Architectural Conservation District was deferred. 2332 Stark Street, item number 4, request for design approval for demolition in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, Area A, was deferred, as has been the lot adjacent to 2834 Gadsden Street, the northeast corner of Union and Gadsden Streets. This was a request for design approval for construction of a single-family house in the Earlwood Protection Area, Area A.
Thank you very much, Amy. The DDRC uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the DDRC or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The DDRC then approves the remaining, pardon me. The DDRC then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Will staff please read the consent agenda?
Sure. The first item is 1415 Green Street, a request for design approval for renovation of Woodrow College in the City Center Design Overlay District. The second is 1327 Richland Street, request for preliminary certification of the Bailey Bill in the Landmark District. Third is 3025 Columbia Avenue, a request for design approval for an addition in the Earlwood Protection Area, Area A. 2901 Park Street, request for preliminary certification of the Bailey Bill in Earlwood Protection Area, Area A. And last is 1329 Northwood Street, a request for construction of an outbuilding, Earlwood Protection Area, Area A.
I move to accept the consent agenda and approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Staff, please take the vote.
Ms. Sims Branham,
Yes.
Ms. Gallo,
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg, Mr. Leedecker,
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie. Oh, sorry. Mr. Salibi,
Yes.
Mr. Shelton,
Yes.
and Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The DDRC will now move forward with those items on the regular agenda. I have been informed I have to recuse, or informed of information that lets me know I need to recuse myself from this item. I would like to nominate Ms. Mary Beth Sims Branham to take over as chair for this agenda item. Do you accept, or I guess, do you have a choice? All right, thank you.
And there should be a vote for this, so if I could see a show of hands. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Salibi and Ms. Sims Branham. So you'll take over this part, and then as we finish this project and Mr. Salibi comes in, he can close the meeting.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I read this outline? Okay, well, staff will introduce the case, and then the applicant will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. Then the DDRC may ask some questions. We will ask for public comment, and then we'll close public comment, and the applicant will have 5 minutes to respond to any public comment. And the DDRC may ask any additional questions of the applicant. We'll deliberate and action by the DDRC, and then once the deliberation begins, no additional comments will be permitted by the public. Everybody understand this? Great, thank you.
And is your microphone on?
No, so did everybody hear that?
I think it was fine.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
All right, the first and only case on the regular agenda is at 602 Hugie Street, 602 Hugie Street, 603, 609, and 613 Pulaski Street, and Pulaski Street with no address. This is within the Innovista Design District, and it's a request for a certificate of design approval for the construction of a new mixed-use apartment complex. So this proposal involves the development of a 174-unit mixed-use apartment complex that spans between 5 and 6 stories and houses 263 spaces of structured parking, 5,400 square feet of ground-level retail spaces front onto the intersection of Blossom and Hugie Streets, a resident lobby at the building's southeast corner at the base of the Pulaski Street frontage is flanked by lounge space and bicycle parking facilities. The site is bounded by Pulaski Street to the east, Blossom Street to the south, and Hugie Street to the west. I just want to note that since the publication of this evaluation, the applicant has submitted some renovated drawings. Those are included at the end of this presentation, but what is being evaluated is the drawings that you will see before you now. So in section 1 on site planning, section 1.1 parking facility location, landscaping and screening, and section 1.2 on structured parking, staff finds that the bottom 2 floors of the proposed development contain parking spaces within the block core that are made accessible through driveways on 2 B-designated streets, Hugie and Pulaski Street, shown here in the site plan. Retail spaces line the majority of the Hugie Street facade's ground floor and continues to wrap the southwest corner of the building, extending along the west end of the Blossom Street facade. Ground floor parking extends out to a section of the Blossom Street building envelope that spans from the end of that retail frontage at the building's southwest corner to the resident leasing office at the southeast corner. This section of the Blossom Street facade is set back 6 feet 9 inches from the sidewalk edge. The sidewalk zone created by this gesture is populated with landscaping and provides adequate separation between the sidewalk zone and the visible openings into the parking spaces. These openings, which follow the datum of the upper story openings above, are clad in steel mesh frames that help screen the parking housed within. Parking spaces that line portions of the building envelope on the second story are similarly fitted with steel mesh frames. Openings into the parking spaces on the lower levels of the building's north elevation, shown in the top drawing here, should be clad in a similar mesh screen. Staff finds that more can be done primarily through the use of murals, decorative lighting, surface ornamentation, and more vertically oriented landscaping to activate the ground floor section of frontage along Blossom Street, where openings into the parking spaces are visible from the right-of-way. Similar ground level activation should be deployed along the Blossom Street facade near the transition between the section of light gray brick and the leasing office at the building's southeast corner. On the eastern and western ends of the building's north elevation, which will be visible from Pulaski Street and Hugie Street respectively, these methods of ground level activation are also needed. 8 angle-in parking spaces will be installed along the Pulaski Street edge of the site. Tree-lined bump outs will frame these surface parking spaces and help foreground the pedestrian orientation of the development. In section 1.5 on street orientation, the proposed development's 2 primary entries are located at the southwest and southeast corners, near the intersections of Hugie Street and Blossom Streets, and Blossom Street and Pulaski Streets respectively. These major corner entries are pronounced by the plaza-like open spaces that encircle them. The building's 3 primary facades, the Hugie Street facade, Blossom Street facade, and Pulaski Street facade, are predominantly parallel to the rights-of-way they front onto. Storefront features occupy more than 50% of the side street elevations, Hugie and Pulaski, their ground floors. On section 1.6, in grade change, Blossom Street slopes significantly downward towards Hugie Street. This grade change predominantly affects the Blossom Street facade and manifests in a stepping down of its ground floor openings. While the tops of these openings remain aligned, the windowsill locations vary in height. Large variations in the gaps between the windowsills and ground plane along this section of the Blossom Street facade create the impression that facade elements are not being appropriately stepped down. Given the high visibility of this building frontage, staff finds that the bottoms of these openings should step down in a manner that is more appropriate with the slope of the site. In other words, a visual line should be drawn starting at the first screened ground floor opening closest to Hugie Street that connects the bottom right corners of these openings across the grade change. The applicant shall coordinate with staff on the alignment of these openings. The topography of the site also creates moments of unadorned ground floor wall faces on the Blossom Street facade nearest the corner of Blossom and Pulaski. Staff finds that further articulation of the kind described in section 1.2 of this evaluation of this ground floor frontage is needed. Section 1.7 on open spaces and private development. A rich pedestrian realm consisting of 10+ foot wide sidewalks, 6 to 8 foot wide furnishing zones that contain shade trees and shrubs, corner plazas and a landscape frontage zone surround the proposed development. Staff finds that the installation of additional planters near the southwest building corner and of additional seating where possible would benefit the pedestrian realm. Additionally, the Omero decorative light fixture that's depicted in the renderings presented will populate the pedestrian realm, and they should not be placed within the furnishing zone as they're currently drawn on the Pulaski Street right-of-way, not within the sidewalk zone as it's shown on Blossom Street. Section 2.0 on architectural style or theme. With the completion of this proposed development, 75% of the corner parcels at the intersection of Hugie and Blossom will be occupied by mixed-use residential developments. The architecture of this proposal is in close conversation with those surrounding apartment complexes and other neighboring structures. It borrows red brick from the nearby historic Palmetto Compress building across the street on Pulaski, which was a former cotton warehouse that's since been converted into apartments. And it shares contemporary massing and the use of gray cladding materials with the neighboring mixed-use apartment complexes across Blossom Street at 500 Hugie, and similarly with the in-construction mixed-use apartment complex at 408 Blossom Street. Section 3.0 on building mass and organization. Due to the site's topography, the overall building height ranges between 5 and 6 stories. The proposed development's Pulaski Street facade sits at 61 feet with 5 stories, while the Hugie Street facade on the opposite end of the site is comprised of 6 stories with a height of 81 feet. Staff finds these maximum heights appropriate for the site and in alignment with recommendations of the InnoVista Master Plan. On section 3.2 on facade proportion and rhythm, staff finds that further articulation and ornamentation of the building facades is needed to divide the building into more pedestrian-scaled sections, better distinguishing the ground floor from the upper stories through the use of additional awnings or horizontal expression lines along the majority of the Blossom Street facade, and a section of the Pulaski Street facade will help achieve this. So we'll create more distinct horizontal layers through ornamentation, changes in materiality, and variation in surface depth within the expanse of the 5 stories that sit atop the Blossom Street facade's base. Staff recommends that the applicant explore extending the gray brick at the base of the building's southwest corner to the section of the second floor immediately above it to help break up the scale of that fiber cement clad mass. The Hugie Street and Pulaski Street facades, in part because of their shorter lengths, are more pedestrian scaled and feature distinct masses with variations in height and depth. Staff recommends that similar strategies are explored along the Blossom Street facade. On section 3.3 on proportion of openings, the proportion of openings relative to cladding on the ground floors of the building's two most active frontages, the Hugie Street and Pulaski Street elevations, is 48% open and 55% open respectively. Staff recommends that the applicant explore increasing the amount of ground floor openings on these facades where possible. On the Blossom Street facade ground floor, the proportion of openings relative to cladding is 51%. Given the program of a significant portion of the ground floor along the Blossom Street facade, this proportion is appropriate. Staff finds that the proportion of openings relative to cladding on the upper stories, 35% open, adequately aligns with the guidelines recommendation of 40%. Section 3.4 on wall articulation. The proposed development's longest facade, the Blossom Street facade, shown in this rendering, is broken down into 4 bays that are marked by variations in the depth of the outermost surface. Adding greater variety to the heights of these 4 bays, particularly of the corner bays clad in gray fiber cement siding, will help break up the monolithic street wall of the Blossom Street facade. Section 3.5 on roofs and upper story details. A flat roof is the appropriate roof type for this context as it's designed. Staff recommends that the applicant coordinate with staff on studying the building approach heading west along the Blossom Street Bridge through photorealistic rendering software to ensure that roof-mounted mechanical equipment is adequately screened from the bridge. From the renderings provided, there don't appear to be any roof-mounted equipment that's visible from the right-of-way. Section 4.0 on exterior walls and materials. The materiality of this proposed development consists primarily of brick, both red and gray, and dark gray fiber cement panels. The combination of these 3 sheathing materials acts as a synthesis of the neighboring building's materiality. The lower levels of the northern face of the building, which runs through the interior of the site, is partially clad in concrete block, shown in the base of the top drawing. Given the low-slung nature of the neighboring structures immediately north of the site, it's possible that this exposed concrete block will be visible from the right-of-way. Staff recommends that the applicant coordinate with staff on exploring alternative cladding materials on these lower levels based on rendering studies similar to those done for the roof-mounted equipment described in the previous section and perhaps the applicant's done this, of the facade's visibility from Pulaski Street and Hugie Street. In section 5.0 on storefront composition and accessories and details, residents approaching the apartment complex by foot can choose to either enter at the Hugie Street facade shown above near the retail activated southwest corner that is clearly delineated by a metal awning, or toward the building's southeast corner through the recessed residential lobby. In section 5.3 on awnings and canopies, black metal awnings mark the retail spaces and entrance to the vertical circulation at the building's southwest corner. Additional awnings above the active ground floors on the Pulaski Street facade that help distinguish between ground and upper stories are recommended. In section 6.0, the upper facade, 6.1, cornice and fascia, the addition of a more pronounced roof line that either slightly cantilevers over the building edge or one that features a more articulated cornice will help ground the building and reinforce a sense of pedestrian scale. Section 6.3 on windows. Staff finds that upper story windows appear lacking in depth from the renderings provided and recommends that the applicant coordinate with staff on increasing window jamb depth or more window articulation. Doing so will help reduce the appearance of upper story windows that are flush with the siding material. The addition of small metal sunshades or fins above the upper story windows could also achieve this. So, this is the final rendering of the drawing set submitted for this, for pending approval today. From this render onward, it's presenting the updated design. I'll let the applicant speak to that. this is the end of the presentation for what is being proposed. And from this slide onward, which I won't enter, those are additional drawings that the applicant has submitted but are not being considered for review right now. Under the recommendation, staff finds that the project substantially meets the design guidelines and recommends granting a certificate of design approval with the following conditions. One, that they activate the ground levels of the sections of the Blossom Street facade and north elevation described in paragraph 5 of section 1.2 through a combination of murals, vertically oriented landscaping, surface ornamentation, and decorative lighting. That they coordinate with One Columbia for Arts and Culture and the commissioning of those murals, better align the bottoms of the ground floor openings along the Blossom Street facade to be proportionate with the slope of the ground plane, populate the pedestrian realm with additional planters near the building's southwest corner and furnish it with additional seating where possible, ensure that the Omero decorative light fixtures being installed are placed adjacent to, not within the sidewalk zone, coordinate with staff throughout the encroachment process to ensure all improvements in the right-of-way meet city standards, break the Blossom Street facade down into more pedestrian-skilled sections by better distinguishing the ground floors from upper floors and adding articulation to the 5 stories that sit atop the building's base. Explore extending the gray brick at the base of the building's southwest corner to the section of second story immediately above it. Explore increasing the percentage of openings on the ground floors of the Hugie and Pulaski Street facades where possible. Add vertical articulation to the Blossom Street facade through varying the heights of that facade's 4 bays, particularly the corner bays that are clad in fiber cement panels. Study the building approach heading west from the Blossom Street Bridge to determine if more screening of roof-mounted equipment is necessary. Explore alternative cladding materials on the base of the north elevation based on visibility from Hugie and Pulaski Streets. Place additional awnings above the active ground floor spaces on the Pulaski Street facade. Strengthen the roof line through either cantilevering the roof slightly or thickening the cornices. Coordinate with staff on further articulating the upper story windows through deepening the window jambs or adding small sunshades. Additionally, signage must come back for a separate review, and any changes to design or additional details that are developed be submitted to staff for review.
Thank you so much. The applicant and consultants for this project may speak for up to 10 minutes. DDRC follow-up questions for applicant and staff. Public comment period. Members of the public have 2 minutes to speak. Applicant will have 5 minutes to respond to the public comments. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? Could I have your name, please?
I'm Josh Harding. I'm with PMC Property Group. How's everybody doing?
Do you swear to tell the truth in these proceedings?
I do.
Thank you.
We are excited for another project in Columbia, South Carolina, which is a market that we have been in since 2004. This project sits at a prominent corner downtown at Hugie and Blossom Streets. As Tristan said, is a 6-story apartment building comprised of 174 apartments and 5,400 square feet of retail. We do want to extend our sincere appreciation to the staff at the city level for their feedback, as this has ultimately made it a better project. We have had also the input of the neighborhood, who we have worked with over a period of about 20 years with our other developments in town. We certainly appreciate all their feedback, and it was a lot of the reason why there was an addition at the end, which is what you saw at the very end of the PowerPoint. Our development staff is here to answer any sort of questions you guys have. I'll turn it over to Strada. Kevin, if you'd like to have a go at the mic.
Could I have your name, please, sir?
Kevin Rutledge.
And do you
with
swear?
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth during these proceedings?
I do, yes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to echo first what Josh said. We appreciate the collaboration with staff and with the neighborhood group input. Both have undeniably made the project better and stronger as a result of those collaborations. Tristan, if you would please maybe go back to the renderings. So speaking to the design that is up for review today, just wanted to give a little bit of context for what we're seeing on the screen and some of the design drivers, high level, that were baked into this project. So being next to the Palmetto Compress and appreciating the rich mill building typology in the area. We wanted to start with that idea as the jumping off point for the building, but we didn't want to replicate that in an insincere way. So starting with the red brick expression and looking at some simple brick detailing, paired windows, inset bays of a contrasting material to break up those facades. We then proceeded to look at how we could articulate the corners and emphasize the public nature, both of the Hugie and Blossom corner and the Pulaski and Blossom corners. Yes. Oh, sorry. Okay, great. So I'm going to bend over here. Does that work for everybody a little better? Okay. So what we see on the screen is the Hugie and Blossom corner, and emphasizing the retail nature, the public access component of it at the ground floor, and attempting to announce that on the upper floors by a change not only of material, but also of color and texture. So what we're seeing on the screen here is more of a board and batten type look above a single-story light gray brick base that is articulated horizontally with the awnings that Tristan, previously mentioned. Oops. And then on the Pulaski Street side, a similar expression, just realized in a different way, trying to emphasize the residential nature of this entry and the more residential feel of this side of the property where it faces the Palmetto Compress. To articulate that entry, we took a different approach of pulling back that residential lobby to create more of a porch element and use the mass of the building above it as the cover and as the sort of shadow casting element that gives depth and richness to that lobby experience. We can also see on this facade that the red brick continues around to the corner, and it's broken up with a light gray brick mass that sort of modulates the red brick to the dark gray fiber cement seen above the residential lobby. And then similarly on Hugie Street, we employed a similar strategy as Pulaski, where red brick serves to anchor the building as it proceeds to the north end of the site. And it's broken up with a tower of light gray brick that acts as an intermediate material between the red brick and the darker gray fiber cement. And not to muddy the waters, but we just wanted to emphasize again the community input aspect of it, where we heard a request for more durable materials, more timeless materials, and we really took that to heart and wanted to incorporate that into the design. So this will be something that we continue to work with staff to refine, but we thought it was important to at least acknowledge that their input has made this project better and has allowed us to lean into the mill building inspiration a little bit more with some more subtle brick detailing moves, being able to offset our inset window bays with some more punched openings on a regular rhythm, while still keeping an overall aesthetic of more of a contemporary nature and not one that tries to replicate anything from the past. And I think otherwise, between Tristan and Josh, the project has been summarized very, very well. We appreciate all the comments and insight that staff has brought to the project. And as I said before, we look forward to continuing to refine the design with them as we move forward. I wanted to thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? All right, does anyone on the DDRC have any questions for the applicant or for staff?
No question. Just commend you all again for engaging with the neighborhood associations that are affected by this. I love to see that community collaboration and get their feedback and incorporate that into the design. I think it's good to see that partnership continue between developers and neighbors. Thank you.
Is there a point of order from the staff? Didn't know if y'all were trying to make a point of something right now.
No, sorry, we were trying to get the slides to where you were,
Oh,
they were current.
to know where I'm
Yes.
supposed to be talking? Thank you so much. All right, so Mr. Ledecky?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Obviously, you've worked closely with the staff, and the staff has a long list of sort of tweaks or recommendations. And one of them that struck me was on the Blossom Street facade to add some murals or somehow enliven that facade. And when I was looking at the renderings, I was struck by the north facade, which there's another comment from staff about the use of cinder or concrete block, and I was wondering if it might be appropriate to put some murals or some decoration on that, because your primary entrance, I think, is going to be in Pulaski, and anybody coming south on Pulaski, that facade is going to be very visible, and it might really call out for some more treatment other than just not using concrete block or cinder block.
Feel free, yeah, please do. I can just add quickly, just in between, I mean, feel free to answer that, but I think one of the conditions that I wrote, which will handle that best, is for them to study that approach, heading, I believe, south along Pulaski to see how visible that cinder is going to be, just to, you know, to frame that, because if it's determined from that study that it will be, I think the recommendation would be that the applicant coordinate with us in proper ways to obscure that block through murals, through siding, but just to be clear that that's kind of in the conditions.
Yeah, well, that was the facade that, to me, really cried out for some more treatment. There was another comment from staff about the visual coming across from the bridge and whether or not any mechanical equipment is going to be visible on the roof. And on the drawings, it didn't look to me like there's any mechanical equipment at all. There's a lot of lounge chairs and a pool, but is there any mechanical equipment going to be on the roof or
Is this on? Yes. Yes, we will have mechanical equipment on the roof. We anticipate that it'll be sort of smaller condensing units and that we won't have larger rooftop air handling equipment. I can say that coming over the bridge earlier today, a lot of the roof, we believe, will be obscured by the Palmetto Compress complex until a certain point that you're past it. But we agree that it is something that we need to continue to study in rendering form to justify that. And we have screening allocated in our plan currently. I think it might have been called out in the site plan review drawings. But we can adjust that and add more screening if it's determined that it's necessary to obscure that equipment.
the Blossom Street Bridge is over the railroad tracks,
That's
not the bridge over the river.
Correct. Yep.
That's the bridge I was thinking of. Okay.
No.
Okay. Thank you for your answers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Can the chair ask a question? Okay, so I just had one question. Do you have any problem with the staff's recommendations that are proposed?
No, we thought, again, they were very insightful comments, and we were looking forward to continuing to work through those for the betterment of the design.
Great, thank you. Well, if there are no other questions, do I have a motion?
I'm sorry, really quickly before you
so
guys
sorry.
do, I want to tail off from that. The drawings that you see at the end of this presentation are indicative of applicants' willingness to kind of head in the direction of the recommendations we made. So I just want to give kudos for that. So
Absolutely, and just to reiterate, those last images is not what we are approving
Correct.
or speaking to today, but it does show a willingness on the applicant's part to move that ball forward with those recommendations. So thank you for that
Well said.
clarification.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if members of the public had an opportunity
Oh,
to speak.
that's so true, thank you. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak?
Hello, can I have your name?
My name is Adam Nagler.
And could you swear to tell the truth in these proceedings?
I do.
Thank you.
Hi, I've been in Granby. I moved in the same year the Mills moved in. And I just wanted to say that we really appreciate working with them and how much they've worked with us. And we're in support of everything they've done so far. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Joe Weeder.
Do you swear to tell the truth in these proceedings?
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
thank you.
I'm a member of the Mill District Alliance. I'm on the board. And also a vice president of the Granby Hill Alliance. And we've been very pleased with our partnership with PMC over the past 20 years. That's really brightened our community significantly, particularly in Granby, which is where I am. It's one of the two bookends for us, having the adaptive reuse of the mills and then having the ballpark on the other side, the Gamehouse ballpark. It's just a nice bookend for a nice little community. Plus, they've come in and bought some of our worst investment properties that were run down, and they've come in and made significant investments into those homes, turning them into single-family residences. So it's been a wonderful partnership, and we love everything they've done thus far. And they came to us early on with this project and said, what do you think? And the Mill District Alliance Board looked over the drawings, and we all collaborated with Josh Harding and gave him insight. The north side is my responsibility. I was the one who said, get rid of the hardy plank, put it on the back of the north side. Why? Because South Pulaski is going to be a dead end. When they redo the railroad bridge, they're going to cut that off. There's going to be no traffic flow there. And really, I mean, College is cut off because of they cut off that grade crossing for the railroad. There's no flow traffic there. It's just a parking lot for the compress. So there's really nothing there. And eventually, something is going to go up on the north side. So it's really a throwaway considering. You know, for us, our whole thing was the money shot was the corner. You know, on where you're gonna, when you come into the city, you want to see something. You know, the Verve is kind of flat, you know, when you look at it. And also Park Place is kind of, you know, a mishmash or what you see everywhere. So we wanted a real statement. And so we feel like the more red brick, plus we wanted to have more of a brick corridor coming, when you're coming over the bridge from the compress to the building. So they've done everything we've asked them to do on this and are continuing to do so. So we're very pleased, and we give them our wholehearted support. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? All right, then. Do I hear a motion in a second?
I'll make the motion. It's going to be a long one, so bear with me. All right. I'll make a motion to approve the certificate of design approval at the property located at 602 Huger Street, UG Street, 603 Pulaski, 609 Pulaski, and 613 Pulaski, with the following recommendations. Activate the ground levels of the sections of Blossom Street facade and north elevation described in paragraph 5 of section 1.2 through a combination of murals, vertically oriented landscaping, surface ornamentation, and decorative lighting. Coordinate with One Columbia of the Arts and Culture in the commissioning of those murals. Better align the bottoms of the ground floor openings along the Blossom Street facade to be proportionate with the slope of the ground plane. Populate the pedestrian realm with additional planters near the building's southwest corner and furnish it with additional seating where possible. Ensure that the Omero decorative light fixtures being installed are placed adjacent to, not within, the sidewalk zone. Coordinate with staff throughout the encroachment process to ensure all improvements in the right-of-way meet city standards. Break the Blossom Street facade down into more pedestrian-scaled sections by better distinguishing the ground floors from the upper floors and adding articulation to the 5 stories that sit atop the building's base. Explore extending the gray brick at the base of the building's southwest corner to the section of the second story immediately above it. Explore increasing the percentage of openings on the ground floors of the UG and Pulaski Street facades where possible. add vertical articulation to the Blossom Street facade through varying the height of the facade's 4 bays, particularly the corner bays that are clad in fiber cement panels. Study the building's approach heading west from Blossom Street Bridge to determine if more screening of roof-mounted equipment is necessary. Explore alternative cladding materials on the base of the north elevation based on visibility from UG and Pulaski Streets. Place additional awnings above the active ground floor spaces on the Pulaski Street facade. Strengthen the roof line through either cantilevering the roof slightly or thickening the cornices. Coordinate with staff on further articulating the upper story windows through deepening the window jambs or adding small sunshades. Signage must come back for a separate review, and any changes to the design or additional details that are developed be submitted to staff for review.
All right. We have a second? Mr. Ledecky?
All right. Ms. Sims Branham.
Yes.
Ms. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg. Mr. Lee Decker.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
And Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right. I believe we can invite our chair back into the room now to perhaps close the meeting. Or do we have any other business, staff, while we're waiting on?
We do not have any other business. Thank you for serving.
Oh, anytime, at last minute, I love that.
You've come this far, you want to close this out?
No, you can,
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
so moved.
All right, thanks, everybody. Able to get a couple articles in. Yeah. Check my portfolio, make sure everything's still going good. How'd it go?